Hey guys, I would like to show you just a quick overview of my project here, the Silent Hill concept art. As you can see, it's a pretty huge scene here. The landscape is 127 by 127 tiles, and you can see the mountains are pretty huge as well. So let me show you the PCG, the Procedural Content Generator, which is fairly new. So let me go to Unlit. And let me just open up the procedural content. It's a blueprint here, PCG forest, and it's basically just scattering, like a procedural scattering system. So I plugged it in, the input from the landscape, of course, and also got my spline data, but I will show you later. Just connected to the surface sampler. Where you can control the points, basically. So once you put your landscape into the surface sampler node, you can basically control the extension of your points. If I just debug that, you can see these are the points where my trees, in this case my trees or static meshes, will be scattered. And the attribute noise is just to create some variations within the scattering, so you can control that. The noise min and max. A density filter, pretty self-explanatory. You have a lower bound and you have an upper bound. So I mean, if this is below 0.5 in this case, you have nothing. Let me just get to 0.5, you get nothing. So the lower bound, upper bound, you can see here, also controls, or basically controls your density here. So yeah. So this is a pretty simple blueprint regarding PCG. After the density filter here, the density filter node, let me just put it back to 0.5. After that, I use the transform points. So you have the scale min, you have the scale max. So basically, it's like when you have foliage. So what's the minimum scale? What is the maximum scale of your mesh? And the rotation, I just make sure that the z-axis is rotating full 360. So I have variations in my trees. The self-pruning is important because it prevents overlapping, so you don't have 2 or 3 trees overlapping. And here's the static mesh spawner. You can see I have 10, 12, I don't know. I think I got at least 10 trees here. All these trees are from Mavi conifer trees biome, the forest biome by Mavi, which are really awesome. I really like these fir trees, conifer trees. So yes, 12. And let me get to the spline here. So in order to use the spline inside your PCG, you just get the spline data here. And you can see here, this is the spline. And once you subtract that, you just get the spline sampler. And from the spline sampler, you just connect it to a difference node. And the difference node is also like the difference from the landscape. So, and then you have the bounding shape here inside the surface sampler. And this is basically, whenever you have a spline or wherever you have the spline, there will be no trees or no meshes spawned. Okay. So yeah. Let me go to the splines, control points here, and what you can see here, this is pretty long. So I mean, this is a really big landscape, and you can see I did all the way. It's like ridiculously long. But I wanted to have like a really huge scene here, and you can see here this is foliage. So I just covered this one with. I added foliage as well, just to cover these sharp corners here, because I have the mountains, as you can see, and the mountains are static meshes. And when you have static mesh, I also scattered some trees, a little less trees compared to the PCG, but yeah. So if we go to our control points here, you can see you can in the half width you can control basically your thickness of your road or path or whatever you wanna have. So if you increase this to like 800, you can see here, like, because we have the bounding box here, a bounding shape in our PCG, you can see that the trees automatically will update. It's all procedural. And yeah, let me get this back to 400. And the side fall off is pretty cool, because if you want to have this like really deep claustrophobic forest, you can see here, if you just decrease the fall off to 0, you can have you get a really narrow really narrow path. So you have the trees, but I think it's too narrow for my taste. And I also made sure that if you have an upper view, so this let me increase the side fall off to something ridiculously high, just to see what the PCG is doing here. I just wanted to have a little bit of space between the forest and my road, because this is basically like a drone footage, and I wanna see the path, I wanna see the road. So yeah, and also here, I have a distance blend in my landscape material. If you're not really sure about that, I can make a tutorial about. I can make many tutorials, of course, because this is just an overview. But distance blend, there should be enough tutorials. I learned this from Unreal Sensei. It's just a node where you lerp your small tile, you have two different types of tiling, like a small tiling and like a higher tiling. So if you go up, if you go far back, you can see you have a distance blend. So yeah, which is pretty cool. It prevents basically this ugly tiling. If you zoom out, you're gonna have a nice big texture. It looks. I really like distance blend when it comes to landscape. It's a must-have. It's really necessary. And yeah, this is the rail I added to my spline mesh. So yeah, if you're doing like a road or like a path, make sure that all your if you model it inside Blender or maybe Maya, really make sure that the spline mesh is the length and everything is exactly the same. There's the rail and the road, everything is completely aligned and perfectly aligned. Otherwise you're gonna have problems when it comes to connecting the mesh. Yeah, so as you can see, I already have I have some foliage here, just for the render. So I just put some like rocks, scatter debris, and some small fir trees, fir bushes, and yeah, just scattered it next to the rails here to make it to populate it, to make it look more realistic. Yeah. So yeah, this is just additional foliage here. This is no PCG. And so yeah, what else can I show you? Yeah, as you can see here, I really like the Mavi meshes here. It looks really cool, almost photorealistic. So yeah, and as you can see, I have some problems here with the foliage. Sometimes when I click it and I need to switch back to landscape, switch back to foliage, sometimes it's a little buggy. I cannot even see my paintbrush. So yeah, sometimes it's a little buggy. So if you're facing trouble like that, just try to switch back to landscape, go back to foliage mode, and try to solve this issue. But you can see here I have stones, branches, tree, fir, large, small, medium, yeah, saplings, tree, fir, seedlings, different types. and just scatter these smaller trees just next to my spline mesh here. Okay, cool. So yeah, what else? Let me just go back here to my splines, to control points. And what I would like to show is the segments here on the right hand side. This is the mesh I modeled. So as I told you before, if you have a road or a path, you can add, like, I don't know, traffic lights, poles, a rail. Doesn't matter. It depends what you want to do. You can see here, I always have some space on the side here, so it goes up, the road goes up, because you will always need, you should always have this bending here, because I will show you later, because once you deform your landscape, it will overlap. So if you just have a flat plane, it's gonna overlap and you're gonna have a lot of problems. So you always should have a bending going down. Yeah, so you can see, and it is just quixel texture. So just yeah, using plain quixel texture. I don't mind having like a really complex texture. I just used the road, and this is the mesh vertical offset here. So the mesh vertical offset, if you put it to 0, you can see it's overlapping because it goes down to basically 0. So make sure you have like at least like 10, or in this case 14. So your road is the z-axis is elevated. So this is why you have this bending on the side going down. Always make sure that you have something like that when you model your road or your path. So then it looks clean. It looks quite all right. Yeah, this is the model from Sketchfab. So I just downloaded a Maybach Mercedes from Sketchfab and just added my materials. Just did some organization inside Blender. So I wanted to have the car paint and some like a basic rubber material for the tires, like a red metal texture, like an orange metal texture for the bracket, emissive color for the backlight to make it realistic, and a texture I just got it from Google, just like this mark here, just a simple texture. You just use it as an albedo, did the UV in Blender, and created a normal map inside Photoshop from this. Yeah, and this is these are the mountains. I did these in Gaia, and also did the mask. So I basically created a snow mask with slope and yeah, I used a sloped and also like a rainfall mask and combined that to get the snow, and then I added inverted the mask and to get the rock texture. Also just using the Quixel Megascans snow and rock textures. And also I believe, yeah, I remember also for the mountains I did ambient occlusion. So I baked like a kind of low poly version, like 1 million, which was like a 1 million mesh. So I used the displacement texture from the Gaia, and then in Blender displaced a plane with 1 million polygons. This is my low, and then I have like a 4 million, or not even 8 million, which is my high mesh. So since this is nanite, it's not a problem, but I just baked inside Substance Painter, I baked the high mesh, and then I had the ambient occlusion. And I used the ambient occlusion on my rock texture to have 2 different rock textures and get some shadow and different rock textures, make it look more interesting. And always make sure when you have that you use triplanar projection, because otherwise you're gonna have ugly stretching, because the mountain, the z-axis is it's gonna be stretched a lot. So you always make sure you have triplanar projection inside Substance Painter when you apply the textures. So you can see here, these are the textures here, 8 million triangles, so nanite is not a problem. This is my text dye, which I did inside Substance Painter, as I said, and I just used the masks, like this slope mask, as I said, inside Gaia, and just exported that together with my displacement. So yeah, and you're just gonna invert the slope, and you can also combine the slope mask, combine it with a I think it's a rainfall mask. I don't know. So you can make something good out of that to create realistic snow. Yeah, and I mean, this is just an overview. It's not really a tutorial on how to do what, but it's just an overview so you get an idea. So let me show you the ultra dynamic sky. It's a really foggy scene, so make sure you use volumetric clouds and whoops, where am I? Sky atmosphere. The cloud coverage is really necessary here. So if you have a cloud coverage of 0, it's pretty boring, looks pretty flat, because you can go overboard with that. So make sure you have something good looking, interesting looking here. There, I think this is like too much. So like 0.3 maybe. 0.5. So yeah, I think this looks really cool. And then you can play with the fog, so make sure that you have in the distance you have a good amount of fog, but not too much. Maybe like 6 or 7 should be a good value in this case here, but you have to play around with that. So yeah, this is what I basically just use, just out of the box ultra dynamic sky. It's a pretty good plugin. It's really, really good, especially for these overcast scenes. And yeah, the bottom altitude, I'm sorry, I cannot really pronounce that. Yeah, as you can see, you control the height of the clouds. Also, like the scale, there's like the bottom scale of the clouds and the layer height scale. This is really where you can control the height and the shape. This is a really, really necessary for this scene to make it look really cool here. So I wanted to have these peaks from the mountains. I want to have these covered, but not too much. So it's gonna look like it's cut out, that like the mountain is cut. So I just want to have this like nice blending of these clouds. So the extinction scale top, yeah, just play around with these values here inside the volumetric clouds. And yeah, where's the sun? Let me, there's so much stuff here. Where's the sun? Oh, as you can see here, I have no simulation here. Simulate real sun, moon or stars. Okay, we're not gonna use that. So, but I have volumetric fog enabled, so don't forget that. So yeah, here's the skylight intensity. I always leave it to 1. I mean, yeah, if you go really overboard with that, it's not gonna look realistic. If you go too low with the skylight, it's not gonna look really realistic as well. So a value of like 0.5 and 1 is always a good option. So I like 1. But you can always make it a little darker, and the shadows a little darker later inside DaVinci, of course. Yeah, as I said, volumetric fog is enabled, and you have the base fog density, where you control the overall fog density, of course. So here 1 is obviously too much, 0 is pretty boring, so 0.1 is pretty cool. And yeah, so what can I say, what can I add? Did I show you the sun, or I don't know. Let me check for the sun. As I said, so much options here. So the sunlight intensity is also pretty necessary to never change your skylight intensity. Leave it to 1 and try to change your sunlight intensity. This is just a tip. So, but for me it was too much. I wanted to have like a really dark, foggy scene. So like, I mean, this is like obviously a little too dark. So 3 or 4 should be something which is good. You can, of course, play around with the sun angle here to move the sun around. But I guess, in my opinion, I just wanted to have the sun up high. So something like 40 or 30 should be fine in my case. So yeah, the sun angle, sun inclination should be something you really should adjust. And the post-process volume, let me just show you my post-process settings. Bloom, I have bloom here, which is convolution. The intensity doesn't really matter because this is a really overcast scene, so we don't have any like bloom, like hard lights or point lights, any harsh reflections. So the bloom intensity is not gonna make sense. Exposure is not gonna make sense either because we have the ultra dynamic sky, which is connected to our exposure settings. Chromatic aberration, I leave this disabled because chromatic aberration is something I do in DaVinci. But as you can see here, if you go really crazy with chromatic aberration, you can see it's just distorting your image. So you make sure that you always have just a little bit of chromatic aberration. As you can see down here, you have this distortion effect. It's psychological, but it's gonna look much more realistic if you have like a tiny bit of chromatic aberration, just a little bit. Local exposure is a game changer for me. Highlight contrast scale, I like to decrease that because I wanted to have a dark and moody scene, a dark foggy scene. So I just decreased that from 1 to down like 0.4 or like maximum 0.6 or 0.5 should be good. Yeah, but I mean, you can play around with these settings, of course. So the shadow contrast scale, I like that. Keep this at 1, so we have good shadows. The detail strength in this case for this environment is horrible because we have a lot of foliage, a lot of details. So I keep my detail strength at like 1 or even 0.9 to have it a little softer. But again, you can soften it up in DaVinci or Photoshop. The middle gray bias, decreased it to like minus 0.8 or minus 0.6. It's acting similar to gamma. Just make it the overall, exposure just decrease a little bit, like the sky textures. Get some more get this just to increase the mood, the dark mood. And the temperature, just make it a little colder, so increase it to 7,000. I have 7,250. I have the global. You can see here, there's not really much I need to explain here. Just play with these colors, slightly change, slight changes until you have something you like. Same goes for the shadows, gamma. Of course, I wanted to decrease that because if I increase the gamma here in the shadows, it's gonna look horrible. The gain in this case, I like to just increase that. If I decrease the gain, you can see here it's gonna have a lot of like distortion on the foliage. It's just gonna look strange. As I said, film, I have like slope and toe. Global illumination, I'm just using lumen with a lighting quality to the max. Scene detail, maximum final gather quality, everything is maxed out. Also for the ray tracing is disabled, of course. So advanced, you can see here the lighting qualities for final gather quality, everything's pretty much maxed out here. I didn't change the diffuse. No ray tracing, just lumen reflections. We don't have much reflections here. I mean, the only hard reflections we have is on the car paint. So film grain, I leave it blank, disabled, because you can get a better grain effect in DaVinci. Yeah, and then add a little level sequence. I was adding a level sequencer here. Once you did that, you can also make sure you have a cine camera actor. So you just add a cine camera inside your scene, switch your perspective to cine camera, and then you put your cine camera actor inside your level sequence. So once you open the level sequence, add your level sequence, you add you're gonna add your cine camera inside the level sequence. And I also use a blueprint, a camera shake. So this is just a blueprint and search for camera shake base or shake base component. I believe it's called something like that. And once you open this blueprint here, I just have like 0.5 on the amplitude and frequency multiplier, 0.5, 0.5. Also rotation 0.5, 0.5. Just settle, just a little bit of movement. You can see here's just a slight camera shake. Don't go overboard. This, as I said, is just psychological. So yeah, let me just get back to camera shake, and you can see here. Yeah, it's a little laggy, of course, but you can see you have a slight camera shake, like someone is holding the camera, or like the drone has some wind is going on here, some shake effect. And yeah, this is pretty much self-explanatory. Just the transform. So I'm just moving the camera here and adding these points here. So everything is just automated. So the camera location is getting automated and it's acting like a drone. Oh, by the way, cinematics, movie render queue. Yeah, and when you're done, you just add the movie render queue. If you and you just add your level sequence. And I like using EXR or PNG. In this case, I'm just using PNG. Sometimes I'm getting really annoyed by these color output settings. Sometimes it's just, I struggle with these color correction stuff. So I use PNG, render warm-up count, anti-aliasing is 16 samples, game overrides, so I don't want to have any LODs, I don't want to have any texture streaming, so game overrides, anti-aliasing, PNG, and the output is pretty much just 1K or like HD, and then accept and render local, and that's it. So yeah, this is basically how I did this short cinematic. Thanks.